Good afternoon, all. Welcome to this session, which is entitled The Sustainability Vacuum. Is the Green Agenda Falling Behind? A major theme throughout this whole day has been AI. I find it somewhat bemusing that we talk a lot about AI and not necessarily the kind of impact from a green perspective. So I think we'll tackle that dichotomy, if you will. John, starting with you, how have you seen that kind of ESG sustainability agenda change over the last year?
I think the thing I'm noticing more when I talk with people about this is that we've done all the easy stuff, and actually the things that we do next are actually really quite challenging, and so meeting targets is going to become harder and harder.
We are on the right path. It's just somehow I feel that it's not just businesses' responsibility, it's to do with people behavior and engagement, or lack of understanding what they can do to improve the situation.
The green agenda is always on our track. We need to be there. And me personally, from Ireland, green hat on. I like to be leaving something behind for the future generations. There is a bit of greenwashing and paying a little bit of lip service to the green agenda. It's like, oh, we all have to do it. Let's just tick that box.
We've seen a huge increase in the number of customers proactively coming to us and saying, look, how can you help us from a networks point of view, from a device point of view? What strategies have you got in place? And then we've seen it expand not only in terms of the technology that we provide and how we can help them from that side on the networking front, but more holistically.
Speaking as a personal individual, yes, it has been politicised, but probably not enough. If we look at what is being talked about currently on the political agenda, actually it's quite low down, and things like the restoration of nature in this country is not high on the political agenda.
From a tech point of view, the absolute best thing you can do is keep your resources in play for as long as possible. So not only when you're creating your own products, but also when you're choosing who to partner with, choosing who to procure from, making sure that they share that goal.
What I did within my teams is enabled KPIs related to sustainability. So you have to kind of introduce measures by which they can do some activities and you're going to measure it as part of their performance. And that has worked well.
ESG and sustainable agenda was to go cloud-based, cloud-first adoption, so getting rid of servers on site, because you'd expect that the Azures and the AWSs and the Google Clouds can do it a lot more efficient doing ourselves. Yeah. And we've shifted the problem, but then what we're seeing in the news is they're not doing good as job as they should be doing it. Yeah. And AI generation is it's generating so much power execution. So we're having to check our supply chain, but is that going to shift our behavior to going from AWS to Google? I don't think so.
If you then exercise your buying rights to the more transparent organisations that do try and actually calculate the data around their own Scope 3 emissions, then that's got to be a good thing, right? Because ultimately, if everybody starts behaving in that way and saying, right, do you know what, yeah, we are going to only go through acquisition and procurement activities with the best in class, that will change behaviours. It won't happen overnight.
But what and why? There is a lack of definition around lots of words in that subject, as well as what data and what would be acceptable, what won't be, what is accurate, what is the data source. So some sort of standardization and benchmarking or developing baseline, that would definitely be helpful.
Even understanding the elasticity of the platforms, it's a good way to save money and also to reduce carbon. So when you're not talking about peak times on, your web platforms and what have you, actually kill the environments. Don't even just power them off, get rid of them, because that's a way you're reducing your costs as well as doing good for the environment.
It's not just my agenda from an ESG point of view. I'm trying to change behavior in the company and education. So if we can do that, we've 3,000 people work for the company, and is security just my job? No, it's everybody's role. Is ESG my role? Is everybody's role?
We had 12 staff groups around all sorts of different dimensions of diversity and inclusion. We didn't have a sustainability one. So that may be a very sort of tactical manifestation. But I guess my general question is, do you see parallels in the conversations that you're having? And what do you think the lessons are from that sort of recent history?
Well, I can absolutely say there is a parallel, and we've actually used that as an approach, because if you think, how did those shifts change in inclusion, diversity, and equality? They started with the fact that there was an injustice identified, legislation was put in place that led to organisations actually setting those as strategic ambitions and goals, and actually it started then to shift the culture within the organisations.
How do you see the responsibility in this field of the vendor community of hyperscalers? Because clearly this takes a joined effort, isn't it? An industry effort to actually drive change.
Absolutely. I think the partnerships that we have with our suppliers, vendors, critically important. And I think this messaging that we have around, go into a shared space and it's not your problem anymore, or like go with us and provide, someone provides a service and we consume it, therefore it's not in our emissions profile anymore, could be accurate, could be true. It's then somebody else's problem technically. But if we're thinking in a more like communal way, we should not be approaching it like that, because of course the emissions aren't magically disappearing just because they're not on your reporting sheet. They're still there. They're still having a very real and very negative impact.
I think that create that sense of movement within an organisation, make this an important thing, because everybody in an organisation can have a positive impact or a negative impact. Yeah, so I like the idea about, actually setting it within people's performance objectives and things like that. Make it everybody's business.
Include the new generations. They're passionate, genuinely passionate about it, not ticking the boxes, including my kids. If you tell them if you send one slice of bread, throw it away, it is going to consume XYZ amount of oil or gas.
But the world is screwed. It really is. If the money that was going into arms went into sustainable, but we're not going to change Putin and these guys on this. It's a pity the way the money is being diverted a long way. But all we can do is what's in my control. What can I do? What can I influence? So I can influence my family. I can influence my peers at work and make it. It's not just IT's job. It's my colleagues. And you tell them turn off that frigging computer when you go home in the evening.
Some of those very traditional gatekeeping business practices really do have to be thrown out, because it's the world we're talking about. It's our planet that we all live on. Just because I work at BT and we're doing great doesn't mean that I'm immune from the climate change catastrophe that's going on around us. So the more you can share, the more you can do, I think, the absolute best.